world where encounters can be just as wondrous as anything we experience today.
The Natural History Museum. It's a place where we can get a vivid idea of the great variety of life that inhabits our planet both today and in the past.
We wanted to bring animals in the Natural History Museum to life. CGI has reached a peak of perfection. It simply looks real. It's an ideal playground for computer-generated images to waltz around the place. Once you've got the idea that you're going to take advantage of 3D with CGIs, then you say, okay, what are going to be the interesting things to bring to life? And so one of the entertaining things to do is to bring these animals to life in the light of modern knowledge.
And here it is. There are two ways of pronouncing its scientific name. It's either Diplodocus or Diplodocus. Either way, it's a bit of a mouthful. So I'm going to use the nickname that is commonly used around here. This is Dippy. And what's more, although there's no way of being sure whether it was male or female, I'm going to assume that Dippy was female.
But what did Dippy look like when she was alive? This strangely shaped fragment of a dinosaur called Attenborough was mummified before it was fossilized. So not only the bones, but the skin was almost perfectly preserved. And it was covered in small scales. They didn't overlap like those of a lizard, but formed a close-fitting mosaic. Maybe Dippy was like that too. But what about her colour?
My suspicion is that Dippy, like many large mammals today, such as elephants or rhinoceros, was a general all-over neutral plain colour. So if we add a little bit of skin and flesh, we can get some idea of what she actually looked like. So now, after 150 million years, we've got a pretty good idea of what Dippy looked like.
But how did she behave? Well, animals her size and weight must have moved in a rather ponderous way. And in any case, since she was a vegetarian, as we know from her teeth, she had no need to be speedy to get her food. But it's the tiny bones in Dippy's inner ear that can give us a clue as to what she sounded like. These little bones are basically the same shape as that of the dinosaur's closest relatives, birds. The range of sounds a bird hears is related to its size. A small bird makes and hears high-pitched sounds, whereas large birds communicate with low-pitched sounds. So huge Dippy, with her inner ear bones shaped like those of a bird, could probably hear very low-pitched frequencies of sound. And she could probably make them, too.
We know that elephants today can communicate using infrasound, sound with frequencies so low they're below human hearing. And those sounds travel through the ground, sometimes for many miles, and are detected by elephants through their large, flat, sensitive feet.
Chippy too had large flat feet. So maybe the giant dinosaurs communicated with one another in much the same way, as well as by bellowing. And those may not have been the only noises that Dippy could make.
Some scientists think that because of the length of her tail and the way the joints work, she might have been able to crack it like a whip.
The muscular strength that enabled her to hold her tail above the ground meant that she could, if necessary, use it as a weapon. Her tail would have helped to balance her long, heavy neck. But why was that so long? It used to be thought that she lived in rivers and needed her neck to break the surface in order to breathe. But that can't have been true, because if her body was submerged, the pressure of the water would have crushed her lungs. The most likely explanation seems to be that her huge neck helped her reach vast quantities of leaves. Sweeping it from side to side, she could cover a larger grazing area. She could also push her head between forest trees to reach ferns and other ground vegetation.
But in order to reach the highest, most succulent leaves in the forest, it seems likely that Dippy would have reared up on her hind legs. Come on, Dippy. Breakfast. Come on. Oh, hello. This poor old bird is a dodo. It once lived on the island of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean, and it's almost certainly the first animal species that human beings actually exterminated in historic times. And so now we talk about being as dead as a dodo. But in spite of its fame, this one is a fake. Its feathers come from a goose, its feet were modelled on a turkey, and its beak, I suspect, is plaster.
The museum can be forgiven because no skin or feathers of the dodo survive. Its image was influenced by pictures like this one, painted by a 17th century Dutch artist, Roland Savory. But he had never seen a living dodo and based his image on accounts by seafarers.
I've often wondered whether dodos actually look like that. But unfortunately, they'd all disappeared before anyone could get a good look at them. Until now.
This funny, dumpy creature is how the bird is usually represented these days. But I've seen quite a lot of flightless birds over the years, and this one doesn't quite ring true. An examination of the way its thighs join its pelvis has shown that in life it actually stood much more upright. We now know that its feathers were probably a lot fluffier than in that painting. We also now know that it was related to the pigeon, and some experts suggest that it made a pigeon-like call, doo-doo, doo-doo, which gave the bird its name.
The dodo probably fed on fruit. There was a lot of it on the island. I'll try him with a bit. Come on. What do you make of that? Ow. powerful beak. In fact, it may well have been adapted for crushing shells and crustaceans for the sake of the calcium.
And there's a female. Maybe she is another reason why they had such large beaks to show off with during courtship. And here comes a rival male. He could be another reason for having a huge beak to fight with in disputes over nest sites.
Until now, no one has ever seen the dodo egg, so no one knows how big it was. After tonight, who knows?